Alrighty. Hello, everyone. Welcome to wasmCloud Wednesday for April the 17th. We've got a pretty brief community meeting today. We've got a nice little demo and discussion for a little special update from all of us. And, we'll talk a little bit about the community as well. And then we'll talk about a cool new contribution that landed in our documentation earlier in the week. So, as far as this nebulous, very special update, what I really want to show, if we take a look at the quarter 1 roadmap for wasmCloud, if you take a look at the things in block triage ready for work or in progress, there is nothing there, actually. Very cool. If you take a look at completed, you can see a super long backlog of work that maintainers, contributors, all of you have gone through, all of you and all of us have gone through and completed. So everything on the 1.0 roadmap is complete. If we take a look at our 1.0 release candidate testing discussion thread, you can see that we found a couple things, some bugs, some developer experience things that we wanted to iron out. Everything is captured in a bulleted list in this discussion. And if you scroll all the way down the discussion, you can see that all of the bullets are checked off, all the way down to the very last one. So that's all great. So what I would really love to do with everybody here on the call is come over to wasmCloud and check out. Oh, look, there was this small branch called Feat 1.0. That's a pretty cool branch. I'd like to, at the very least, do the biggest chore commit that I've done so far in my GitHub career, which is bumping Wash and wasmCloud to 1.0. I'm going to go ahead and write all of the release notes here while everybody looks and watches. Oh, there we go. Great. Glad we got that. I'm going to fix some of these links and everything here, but all of this here specifies the big features that wasmCloud brings as a 1.0 project. This is kind of targeted at the people who are coming along and checking out the release notes who may or may not have tried wasmCloud before. We talk about compatibility back to 0.82, how to migrate. We've added some documentation under migrating from the 0.82 application format to 1.0. Calling out a couple of like red herring, like there's a warning thing that doesn't matter. And really the important thing from this is the release notes. And I just want to thank each and every one of you for being around for this journey, getting us to 1.0. And while we're all here on the call as a community, I will go ahead and create this PR. So very fun, super exciting. This is going to go out a little bit later today. So we're going to merge the 1.0 branch. We're going to make sure that we have a little bit of time to cut everything, to cut the latest version of Wash, which is going to be 0.27, which is kind of dropping the alpha tag. And then we also have some updates on the documentation in order to use, I know it says WASI key value, but this updates our documentation so that, on the home page, it says the wasmCloud 1.0 is available. Read the documentation. It's got updates to our examples, et cetera, et cetera. So, super exciting update there to bump to 1.0. And you all should expect to see the full release notes, full instructions, a little release blog, all of that. Probably around this time tomorrow. So I'll throw out a little party emoji. But do folks have any questions, any comments for this point?
How are you going to celebrate, Brooks?
How am I gonna celebrate? I think I might ask my boss to see if I can take the rest of the day off. That'd be pretty cool.
I'm gonna
I
curl
heard
up for a
she's
long winter's nap. That's what I'm gonna do.
I heard she's a ruthless taskmaster.
No, no, no. I am gonna celebrate by getting this out, and this is gonna sound cheesy and like it's pre-canned. I would love to just sit down and spend some time building like a really cool wasmCloud app. Like I've built a lot of examples, a lot of test things for this. I'm excited to really use it and get back to developing it. Sorry, was the right answer bourbon? I can do that too. Bourbon's a good answer. All right, folks. Well, I don't really have any more fanfare than that. So if there's anything else, please let me know. But for now, we can move on to another pretty neat contribution that came in from a community member this week. I want to thank Liam for putting this one in. Just kind of updated our documentation around WIT syntax highlighting. A lot of us on the maintainer side and use Visual Studio Code. So we had like, kind of very specific documentation here for updating VS Code. And Liam kind of came in. Looks like he uses NeoVim and kind of came in and made this documentation a little more generic. Talked about VS Code and then how you can install this for all the NeoVim users. Looks like it's actually maintained by him as well. The plugin, whatever you call it for NeoVim, my gray beard is slowly becoming less and less gray for WIT. So this is really huge. Thank you for adding this. And this is a good marker for everybody who is, working in their own development environment. If you're creating tools for WebAssembly, chances are they'd be super helpful for other people in the community, whether it's with syntax highlighting, if you have like a VS Code plugin where you can drag and drop a WebAssembly component in, something like that. All of those, I'm sure, are super useful for the community. So please keep letting us know what you're building. It's really cool. Do folks have any how many of you actually use NeoVim? Colin, didn't you just like swap over
From
because
Vim. Yeah.
okay. Yeah.
But this should work for Vim. Actually, can you get tree sitter to work in Vim? No. Okay. Yeah, I did. So I switched over to NeoVim. I didn't know what tree sitter was, so I guess not.
Yeah. Keep wanting to do NeoVim. And I'm like, do I really want to be writing Lua for all of this stuff? Lua is cool. Lua is cool. I just don't know it.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much pre-canned stuff. You don't really have to learn Lua.
Yeah.
So
Eventually.
I've been learning Helix, and you can write plugins in WebAssembly. Which is obviously why I was into it.
We should do a
Then-
NeoVim with Wasm tree sitter.
yeah, let's do a bake off. I think we're gonna do some more live streams, some like more co-building on top of wasmCloud 1.0. So we can everybody whenever you show off and you share your screen, that's your opportunity to show off the best editor. See who wins.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know how we'd have to look into NeoVim to see if you could do that. I don't know. Probably not, in fact. Somebody will make it happen, I'm sure. Vim never stays out in the cold for too long on a feature.
I feel like this would have been a better April Fool's thing. We're going to talk about the officially endorsed wasmCloud editor or something like that. Like
Yeah.
that sounds like something that would be good flame war material. Anyway,
Well, yeah, I got a little nerd sniped there for a second. Getting back in the wasmCloud world, we did have a really exciting RFC come across, which I did not capture in the community meeting or in the community meeting agenda, but I think it's very worth it, and I will add it. But I was wondering if Bailey, you wanted to add any notes here on this RFC that kind of came across. Implement a Postgres interface. Oh, you're muted. Sad.
Yep. Oh well. One of the differences between 1.0 and what we had with our Smithy contract that we had is that we had a Smithy SQL DB contract. And the way that it worked, it took basically just a plain old string and would send that over the wire and you would get a result back. The it works well if you're connecting to different databases and you have the exact same SQL syntax across each one, less good if you're trying to change, generically between, let's say, Postgres and a MySQL connector. And there was a dream there that we should be able to solve this. But I think, where the rubber meets the road with SQL stuff is that the SQL semantics are deeply important for the client-side developer experience. And so I'm proposing that we make an interface that's very specific to the SQL syntax that we're working with so that we can provide semantic types for that lingua franca of SQL. I evaluated several other options, and I talked to other folks in the community, including Luke Wagner, on designing what we can do now and then what we can do with future component model features. But let's talk through some of the options that I considered and chose not to go with. I thought about using, obviously wasmSQL, which is deeply inspired by what we previously had with wasmCloud SQLDB contract, which is the same thing. Just like, let's just have a query and execute interface, take a string and, and comes out and comes back. You should probably know how to hash your things and it'll be fine, which is practically like a socket in a way. Now, that proposal is in the earliest stages within WASI and seems to have really stalled because a lot of the folks that do database type work, they're not a fan of this approach. And so I'm not necessarily expecting that one to move forward as it is, but maybe we'll have like a WASI SQL Postgres implementation inspired from what I'm proposing here. That's my hope, at least. Now, for the second alternative that I considered was, okay, well, if we implement an interface based on WASI sockets, then in theory, I would have the benefit of being able to use existing SQL drivers, right? I can modify SQL drivers to target WASI sockets, and then existing drivers would just work, TM. That has some other complication in that for an ecosystem like wasmCloud to support WASI sockets, there's a lot of things that you really need to consider in terms of providing a sandbox for WASI sockets. And when I kind of think about this, I also think about like what would the new 12-factor app manifesto for components be? And I don't think I would include in there just use sockets like you did in POSIX days. I think instead I would have something in there that tells me to be declarative about the semantics of my APIs and my interfaces that I'm providing and the resources that I'm operating on. And so if I have declarative resources, I can statically analyze whether or not, let's say, the connection is allowed and available for my component. And so by being able to expose all of that in the API, I get way more benefits than if I did the sort of conventional approach of what we do in today's world. There are trade-offs, obviously, and both of these approaches are enticing for their own reasons. But this is what I believe is the right answer. And I believe that we can resourcify this interface once the component model supports this new feature called WINT templates. And what that'll let me do is be able to work across multiple connections. That's one other downside to the approach that I'm proposing here is that I want a single component to have a single link pointing to a single, basically, connection. There are other ways to do this where I could have multiple database connections. My thought is that I want to push towards a best practice of one component manages a resource type. And that will be easier for us to migrate to the WIT template feature. That's probably a lot of stuff, but yeah, if anybody has strong opinions about this, please talk to me.
I think we'd have to talk about what WINT templating is.
Yeah. Okay. There's a really great issue in the component model repo, and I can drop a link in here for what Luke and I jammed on for, like, okay, in the world where we actually implement WIT templates, which is kind of like in a world that we support meta-programming inside WIT, what would this look like? And ultimately, the final version that I want to see in this bad boy is, let me drop this in the chat. I want to be able to see, let's say I'm connecting and I'm an authorization component, and I'm making a design decision on whether or not this person can do this action. And maybe I'm some type of identity provider. in my component, I want to be able to say, hey, I export basically these connections in my instance. And I would want to be able to enumerate across those. But inside my WIT, if WIT templates is supported, there would be a star import. And that star would be basically what I would be able to iterate across those two different types of connections inside my component. That doesn't exist today, and it's a little ways out, which is why I'm doing the absolute simplest, in my opinion, option on the Postgres proposal. But what templating is going to be really powerful. We worked on it in the Preview 2 timeframe, realized that it's real heckin' complex, and yeeted that out of what we were launching with WASI.2. But it is very much something that everybody is pretty excited about and into that works in implementations for the component model. So it's something that I expect we'll see probably, in a year, maybe less. And it's really powerful. But also, yeah, right now we can't do it. So be fully declarative on all the things you're using. No metaprogramming today.
Yeah, so I figured this is going to be one of the first times in a while. I know that we've put effort into WASI key value. Like I know that some of Taylor's changes just merged in there. I know we've put, again, Taylor, effort into WIT interfaces for like WASI runtime config. We've used existing interfaces like everything from the component model. This one's going to be pretty new. I wonder if we can brainstorm for a second on what it actually looks like so turning this RFC into something that is like an implemented interface. Seems like the first step would be us just putting up a PR with an example provider for this, right? Like we can publish a WIT, we can give some instructions like, hey, if you want to try out wasmCloud Postgres, add this to your WIT dependencies and then add this to your manifest. Does that sound like the kind of the next step for proving this out? I'm looking to you, Bailey, since you filed it.
Yeah. Thank you, Plant Brooks. Absolutely. We have this really cool feature in wasmCloud where we're able to create custom interfaces. And that doesn't just mean that I have to wait on somebody to give me some standardized interface through the WASI world. I can just say, all right, I'm making, in this point, I'm using the namespace wasmCloud because I'm hoping to do it under this project's umbrella, but I could have done it under my company's name, like Cosmonic, or it could have just been Bailey's. But I can create a custom interface. I can generate using our provider SDK that's provided in wasmCloud 1.0. And I can get all the things that I need for writing the Rust provider, right? And I just kind of plug in the parts that I need over, how to teach this provider to basically do a connection pool. That's one of the keys for when you're designing something for a component-driven ecosystem. I want the component's not going to be the piece that's holding on to that connection pool. My provider is going to have that stateful side of it. So yeah, absolutely. I want to create a reference implementation for Postgres, and then hopefully, if I'm successful, I can, share it around with my friends at like Supabase and NeonDB and all these other places that support Postgres as their sort of, wire protocol, but actually would have a much different provider implementation on the other side. And my ultimate goal is that I would love to see a marketplace of providers that other people write for, their whatever it is, the type of thing that they provide. That would be the ideal goal. So that's why I called it in my proposal a reference implementation for a Postgres provider. And then also an example showing how that works. Yeah.
Yeah, I really like that last idea, Bailey, where obviously we're not going to be the only ones coming up with custom interfaces. So I think as we contribute this to the wasmCloud repo, it'd be really cool to think about how we can integrate community interfaces, community capability providers. I'm not saying that we would host the registry for that or anything, but the right way to socialize and interface in a provider to folks would be really really key.
Yeah, and basically, since our providers are practically just wasmCloud host plugins, it's super easy for anybody else to bring their own. And I would love it if more folks in the WebAssembly ecosystem adopted WRPC, which is what allows us to basically have this plugin framework, and it's protocol agnostic. So you don't have to do it over NATs. They can do it over HTTP or inter-process communication. There's all kinds of options there. So yeah, our hope is very much for this to be a WebAssembly ecosystem type solution. But right now, today, obviously, it is specific to wasmCloud, but done in a way that I think it could be accessible for all.
All right. Do folks have questions, comments on the Postgres interface proposal? All right, then I think that's all that I'll keep you here for today. Really exciting to get 1.0 out the door this week. I'm really looking forward to, like Dave, for example. I know you were saying, hey, once you drop 1.0, let me know and I'll come give it a shout. So of course you've been here for months and months, not to call you out specifically, but I'm really looking forward to folks trying it out. Does anyone have any other topics they'd like to bring up for wasmCloud or for general WebAssembly ecosystem? All right. Well, then we'll call it there. Thanks everyone for coming today. See you next week.